All right, hello and welcome to Weekly Momentum. It has been a minute and I'm excited to be here. If you hang out with me for just a few minutes on a Monday morning, I'm going to help you plan your week so that you can create your best week yet. And every time we do Weekly Momentum, I bring in a slightly different theme and I also use different tools. Over the last 20 years, I've been coaching women in business and helping them really set the tone for the week in a way that is going to allow them to have the most time freedom, financial freedom, and to create productivity in the most efficient way. I want to help you be a get it done diva, to get stuff done and to feel like you aren't being rushing and pushing and squeezing every ounce of energy out of yourself. I want you to be able to feel productive every day this week, but the benchmark is that at the end of the day, you shouldn't feel like you've got nothing left for the rest of your life. So that's our objective here. That sounds like fun. Then hang on with me, and we are going to be moving through the process of weekly momentum. All right, so the weekly momentum framework has 4 steps to it, and we'll go through all of them. Eh, Touch on each one a little bit differently every time I do the Plan Your Week with me. Now, these lives that I'm doing right now, I do probably about once a month. So, the first thing that I want you to do right now, if you haven't already, number one, I want you to go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way, you'll get a notification, you'll be able to find me, I'll pop up when I'm live and you'll be able to make sure that you don't miss any of these sessions. The other thing that you can do is you can also, of course, like and follow the channel, but you can also go over to the live tab in my weekly momentum you in the on the YouTube channel. Blah, it's Monday morning. Oh my goodness. Right? You can go over to the live tab in my YouTube channel and you can see all of the scheduled Plan Your Week with Me's that are coming up. And you can even click notify me and it'll notify you if you want for any of them in particular that you want to attend. And I would suggest all of them. It's a great way to start your week. Really creates a big impact. In fact, I've noticed that when I ask my clients how productive they've been each week or how the last week went when we coach. Typically, if they feel like they had a really great week, it's because they had a weekly top 10 list, which we're going to create in a minute. And if they have a week that they feel like was not as productive, usually that's because they didn't create that weekly top 10. So, that weekly top 10 we're going to create in just a minute is going to make all the difference in the world. All right, couple things. So the weekly momentum framework, right? That's what we're talking about here. And the framework for it, 4 steps, super simple. The first one is to rewind the last week, which we're going to do in a second. Then we're going to realign. And all that really means is look at your bigger goals and make sure you're still want those things. They're still lined up with where you want to go. It's almost like checking the map periodically to make sure that you're moving in the right direction. It's a quick and easy step, but it makes all the difference in the world. Step 3, we're going to plan, and that's where that weekly top 10 comes in. And step 4, we're going to plug in and we're going to make sure that you stay plugged in. I've got a reminder of an oldie but goodie tool that we're going to use for that plug in phase when we get to it. All right, so let's start out by taking, always a good idea to take your emotional temperature. And what that means is basically just taking a look at how you're feeling right now so that you can just check in with where you're starting from. And you definitely want to be doing this process when you're feeling a little higher on the emotional scale. You want to be feeling satisfied or kind of a little intrigued or curious or maybe even excited, right? You want to get yourself in that mode because you're going to create a better plan. You know, Wayne Dyer said it so well. When you squeeze an orange, what do you get? Orange juice. So don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you, but when we squeeze you today to create your weekly top 10, we're going to get what's inside. And so we want to make sure that you're setting the tone with how you feel before you actually step into the weekly momentum process. So that's why we do this at the beginning. And those of you who have, excuse me while I grab, those of you who have the weekly momentum planner, you're going to find that the very, very back of the planner, mine's quite loved and battered here, but there's an emotional scale and you can check your emotional temperature. And if for some reason you don't have one of my planners and it looks sexy and you want one, then just head over to getitdonediva.com and you can order one of these planners and I'll ship it out to you. So after we've taken our emotional temperature, the next thing we want to do is we want to rewind the last week. This allows us to really celebrate what we've accomplished, to track actual progress, not just kind of a gut feeling of how last week went, and to really look at how we can upgrade our operating system every single week. So let's talk about that for a minute. So the first thing that we do is we rewind, and I strongly encourage that you write down at least 3 to 5 wins from the last week. And so you're looking back over last week, which honestly, for myself, a lot of the time is a revelation because I like most of the women that I'm around, it's like when you go to bed, you wake up the next morning, it's like clean slate. It's almost like you've amnesia. You've forgotten what happened the rest of the week. So at the end of the week, to look back over the last 7 days, I'm like, oh, was that this week? Right? And it doesn't take much, ladies, to jog your memory. All you need to do is, honestly, for me, what works is to look at the calendar and just look at each day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, look at my appointments, look at what was going on those days, and it jogs my memory about things that I didn't even write down on the calendar. We just need a little nudge, and then we remember so much. The other thing that's going to help you too is if you have my book Daily Momentum and you use the 30-day planner, I don't have one handy here, then you're tracking wins every single day, as well as do-overs, which we'll get to in a minute. And so you can flip back through those pages and look at all of the wins and revisit them. Now, what's really beautiful about this is, I'm sure you're familiar, I'm preaching to the choir here, right? That when you feel good about something, right? We were just talking about the emotional scale, but when you feel good about something or remember something and it makes you feel good, the body doesn't know any different between the real experience and the remembered experience. And so if you are writing down wins every day, whether you're using the daily momentum planner or you're just writing in a journal at the end of the day, doesn't matter. If you write them down every day, you re-experience them. But then at the end of the week or the beginning of the week, like we are right now, when you look back at your wins from the last week that you'd already written down, you squeeze some more good juice out of them, right? Orange juice, right? Good stuff. And so you get more bang for your buck if you actually acknowledge wins every day, not just at the beginning of the week when you're looking back at the last week. And you remember better then. Because as much as I look at the calendar and I remember the last week and I'm like, oh my gosh, that happened last week, this happened last week, I'm not going to remember as much as I would if I was, say, just looking back on the day. So I do encourage you to make sure that you get into the habit of really reminding yourself of what you did on a very regular basis. Because let's be honest, otherwise what happens is we get to kind of like a pivotal point. It might be a birthday. It might be the end of the year. It might be the end of the quarter. And that's when you look back and you go, what did I do? What happened? And we can't trust our memory for those stretches of time without having something to help us. So weekly at a minimum and daily, I recommend for those wins. And wins, ladies, I keep reminding my clients of this. It's so funny. Wins are not you rifling off and proving that you accomplished stuff, right? Sometimes I'll jump on a coaching call and I'll say, okay, well, every single coaching call, I always start with what are the 3 wins since our last session. But sometimes newer clients or even clients that have been with me for a while can get into the bad habit of, instead of thinking of wins, just rifling off, well, I did this and I did this and I did this. It's not a check-in. It's not proving yourself. Wins is remembering some things that you want to celebrate that have happened. So, what might that be? It might be something that came to you without you doing anything, like an opportunity. It could be that you performed better than usual in a task or a project or something that you did. It might be that you completed something, but don't always go to that. And really remember that every week you're not going to have, I published a book, right? Now and again you might. Every week you're not going to have completely created a website from scratch, right? Those are going to be bigger milestones, maybe annual, maybe quarterly. Those are going to be the wins that you're going to celebrate over longer periods of time. When you're doing daily wins, it really helps you with that muscle so that you can start to celebrate the little wins. And at first, it's going to feel really ridiculous. Like, oh my gosh, I drank 3 glasses of water today. Woohoo, right? But it's okay that the wins are small. It doesn't matter, right? Just remembering what felt good. Yes, Nancy, I see you there, right? It's definitely important to celebrate those little wins, the tiny things, because it builds the muscle and it gets you into the habit of recognizing these things when they're showing up. And the final benefit that I'll mention about this is that when you do that, you're also saying to the universe or God or whatever that you believe in, you're saying, hey, I want more of this. I appreciate this. This is something that I want more of. So wins are a huge one. That's part of the rewind process. Next up, during the rewind, I also want you to make sure that you do do-overs. So it's almost like two sides of the same coin a little bit. When you are looking at do-overs from the last week, what you're doing is you're going, okay, I'm pretty awesome. This was a great week. These are the things that happened. I'm celebrating these things. And these things did not happen. These things did not work out the way I wanted. These things were great, but I can see a way to make them even better. That is the do-over question. So every single week, I do this every day. I challenge myself to come up with 3 do-overs in the 30-day planner every single day. So every week, surely you can come up with 3 do-overs from the last week. And this works very much like the wins, that when you look back over, if you have been doing this daily and you recognize some of the do-overs from the days that you have acknowledged do-overs and you write them down as your weekly do-overs, you anchor them in more, you've got a better chance of actually making that choice in the future when you're presented with the same opportunity or the same situation or the same crossroads again, right? Do-overs, once again, can be tiny things, but the trick with the do-over is that it is specific. You want to be really specific. So I've been having so much fun, ladies. So much fun. I have so much good stuff. I feel like I'm a mad scientist, but we've got past the mad stage and now we're in like the really exciting stage where we've proven that things work and we're getting to share it with people. So I've got a brand new training that's coming, and it is the culmination of 20 years of tools and experience and figuring out do-overs and what wasn't working and what could work better and all of this great stuff. You definitely want to head over to the website, getitdonediva.com, and join the priority notification list. I'm going to launch it in just a few weeks, and if you're on that list, you'll be one of the first 44 that will be allowed into that program. So if you want to get in on the latest, newest thing that is remarkable, you want to get on that priority notification list. And the reason I bring this up is because I've been taking some of my private clients through that training, and they're telling me it's mind-blowing, they're loving it. But what I realized was that I had got so excited about the training, and going through all of the steps and showing them the tools and helping them set up their roadmap, that I forgot to stop at the beginning and say, hey, what do you want? To really like get their ownership, to get them involved at the beginning. Now throughout the process, of course, I'm not telling them what to do, it's their plan, but there's a really important step of coaching at the beginning where it's like, well, what do you really want, where do you want to go, and checking in and making sure that this roadmap will take them there. Now I'm confident that no matter where they are, this roadmap is going to take them there, because basically it shows you how to increase your profitability in 90 days. So I don't know anybody that doesn't want that, but it's important that I get that from them, not from my mouth. So one of my do-overs for this week was I got so excited about teaching that I forgot about the coaching part at the beginning. And so I did go back and do that with the ladies that I've been working with on the roadmap this last week, but that was an important do-over for me. But here's what I love about do-overs is, especially like with that example that I just shared with you, because that was a do-over, I'm going to be a better coach in the future because I'm going to remember better. I remember when my daughter was little, she'd get so mad at herself because she would forget things, and she'd forget where things were, and she'd forget things. Oh, I forgot. Why can't I remember things? And I told her, you know why we forget? We forget so we remember better. And a do-over is just the same. So when you do something not the way that you would like to, and then you in your mind go back, rewind, do it over, you are remembering better. And then as you step forward, when you're presented with those situations, you are much more likely to take a different path rather than the old path. You're more likely to take the new path. So such great tools. So I spent quite a lot of time in the rewind, but it is such an important part of the process. And so it is really key that you make sure that you do rewind every week. And the reason for that too is beyond all the good stuff I just shared with you. If you're not rewinding and you're just forging forward every single week, what happens is you you might just keep reinventing the wheel and not realizing that you're repeating some of the mistakes, missteps, going in a direction you don't want to, right? When we take when we do an audit, when we rewind the last week, it gives us a chance to course correct. And if we don't do that, we could be really badly off course after just a few weeks, and definitely by the end of the year. So this is a really key step. So the next step after we've rewound is to realign. And that is where we step back in and we look at our annual goal, our 90-day goal, and really start to align back, connect back with the bigger picture and what we really want. And so for me, one of the most important parts of the planning process is the 90-day cycle. I find it is the one that creates the most momentum for my clients and myself. And so, yes, every week I might take a quick look at my annual goals, which I write in the front of the planner. But more than anything else, you want to make sure that you are looking back at your 90-day goal, your 90-day project, your 90-day metrics, so that you're making sure that the actions you're going to take this week are going to be moving you in that direction. Because it's so easy as business owners that there's it's like candy everywhere. There's like so many possibilities of things that we could do, new marketing ideas. This person's doing this. We have this opportunity. As smart, ambitious women, it's not that you have a lack of ideas. It's that you actually tend to fall in what I like to call the ambition trap. That you are so ambitious that you're trapped in your own ambition. And we have to back burner things. We have to say, you know what, I'm just going to focus. I'm going to laser focus on this one thing right now, rather than attempting to do everything. So when every week we take a moment before we plan the week to just remind ourselves, what are our annual goals? What are our 90-day goals? What we do is we give ourselves a chance to remember where we're going. And if necessary, we can change the destination. We can change those bigger goals, but do it officially, right? Renegotiate them with yourselves. Don't just randomly spend one week doing one thing and then another week doing another thing, because when you do that, you're going to go like in zigzags and in circles and then wonder why you didn't get anywhere. I want you to get all the way to the destination. I want you to build the bridge to where you're going all the way, not just partially and then move on to another bridge and never actually cross the ocean, right? So that's why we want to take some time to remember, especially your 90-day roadmap and your 90-day goals. Easy step to do, right? It doesn't take that much time. And then we go into, of course, the planning process. So with the planning process, we want to end up with 10 activities. They could be to-dos, small projects, tasks. You could call them whatever you want. I like to call it just the weekly top 10. But you're going to end up with 10 things for the week. Now, for most of you, you're like, I have way more than 10 things to do, Marianne. Are you crazy, right? And I get that. These are the 10 that you're going to do no matter what. These are the most important. We have to prioritize some things above others. Otherwise, it's impossible for us to figure out like what we should do every day. It's like everything on our list is going pick, right? So we want to elevate some of the items that we want to get done this week above others. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. To start with, you want to do a brain dump. So you want to make sure that you just dump everything that you could do and pop it all onto the page and do a little mind map. Where do you want to be by the end of the week? Just get it all on the page. And you may surprise yourself if you take a few minutes to do this, because you're going to maybe get to the point, if you do this thoroughly, where you're writing down things that are at the end, the most important that you'd forgotten about. And you'll also realize you've written down things that are just whims or ideas and not necessarily that important to get done this week. It would be nice to do it, but maybe not this week. So you dump everything on the page first, kind of like if you're going to go on vacation, you might get all your clothes out first, and then you might look at exactly what you want to pack in your suitcase. And then you pick out your 10, okay? Another way of doing this that you could do in tandem with this is for your 90-day roadmap, those of you that follow along with that process with me, especially the new version that we're going to do in the business freedom formula that's coming up, make sure you get on that wait list. Don't forget. What you want to do is you want to look at your projects for this particular 90-day period, and you might want to write down on the mind map that you're doing the next action for each one of them. So then at least they're in the mix, right? Everything that you've said on your roadmap that's important, you have now got on your mind map. It doesn't mean you have to pick one of each thing. It doesn't mean you have to take action on every project every week, right? But at least you're taking it into consideration. And then another way you could do it, though, if you wanted to, is you could literally set up your weekly top 10, that it is one small action towards every one of your 10 projects on your 90-day roadmap or your systems map or whatever you're using. So that is a really great way to make some serious momentum on your 90-day plan if you want to do it that way. Typically, though, as business owners, we have a lot going on each week, and we need to remember and prioritize a few things that aren't necessarily working on our business. Your 90-day roadmap is always going to be the things you're doing to secure the future. It's really strategic. It's building your systems and growing your business and increasing your time freedom and your financial freedom. That's what's going to be on your roadmap. But then there's going to be things that pop up that need doing, and you may have to put on your weekly top 10 some items that are working in your business. That's okay. But make sure at least half of your weekly top 10 are activities that are about working on your business, future driven. And if you're not sure what working on your business or in your business means, then head over to my website, getitdonediva.com. And in the top, you'll see in the navigation, the CEO shift. It's a free training that I'm gifting you that you can learn a lot more about what this working on and in the business is, and really how to make the 3 shifts you need to really shift out of being the operator of your business, which is really very similar to being the most underpaid, overworked employee, to actually becoming and stepping into and shifting into that CEO role. So once again, that's at getitdonediva.com. It's a completely free training that you can grab, and it's in the navigation bar on the main page of the website. Now you've got a brain dump for your weekly top 10 of all the things that are contestants, like it's the Oscars, like these are the candidates, like that's what the mind map is. And then you're going to pick out your 10. Now, I never ever put them in order. You will make yourself crazy. You don't have to have the number one on the list be the most important and all of that jazz. Now and again, maybe I'll make number one the most important, but the rest of them, don't worry about getting them in order of importance. It's okay. You don't have to do that. You just have to narrow it down to 10. And if you don't want 10 items, some of my clients prefer to do less, then that's totally fine too. Just draw a line, make it very clear that it's an intentional decision and that you're done creating the list, not just leaving blank spaces on your weekly top 10. So then you've got your weekly top 10, which is this planning process. And now we are going to go into the final step, which is where we plug in. And I'm going to bring in that tool that I talked about a few minutes ago that we haven't used in a little while. So plugging in is literally taking the items that you've just said, these are the important things I want to get done this week, and scheduling time for them. It's not rocket science. You can block off the times and then you can change your mind and move them around. The reason that you're blocking off these items is to make sure they fit on the calendar, because I am notorious for trying to get 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound bag, as my husband would tell me. So I know I'm not alone, right? So you want to make sure that the tasks, the items on your weekly top 10, you are going to be able to dedicate time to do them, and plugging them into your actual week and blocking off blocks is one of the most effective ways to do that. A step you might do before you do that is you might look at your weekly top 10 and you might go down the list and you might say, how long do I think this will take? And whatever number you come up with, you know what I'm going to say if you've been following me for a little while, you're going to triple it, because we have time dysmorphia, especially with things that we haven't done before. And so you're going to calculate incorrectly and you need to pad it. And what's the worst thing that happens? It takes less time than you think, or you have extra time, you do an even better job of the project or the task. So really looking at the list, how long will this take? And then making sure that you're going ahead and you are popping that onto your calendar for the week, so you're plugging in. Now, I promised you that oldie but goodie tool that we're going to use, and it's the power words. So power words are those words that really get us in a really aligned state. Those of you who follow Abraham Hicks are familiar with that idea of being in a state of aligning, of allowing, of really the idea of feeling into what you want before you actually achieve it. So there's a couple of ways that you can connect with this tool this week. One of the ways is that you could literally, those of you who do the annual retreat with me and have come up with your power words, maybe dust them off. Maybe you haven't looked at them in a while, and maybe write them on your weekly page or on a post-it note with your weekly top 10, so that you look at that each day as you're starting your day, and for sure as you start the week. And I find it's really helpful to say I am before each word, even if it's not grammatically correct, the sentence that comes out, it's okay. So taking the time to really remind yourself why you're doing what you're doing. So your power words is one way that you already defined, and those of you with the planner too, if you haven't set your power words yet, in the very back of the planner, there is a whole list of words that you can maybe use as a starting point to help you come up with your weekly top 10. The other thing that you could do as another option to kind of have the same alignment is that you look at your weekly top 10 and you ask yourself, how will I feel when all of these things have been completed? It's like you're stepping forward in your mind's eye and you're feeling into it, and you're just noticing, will you feel clear? Will you feel confident? Will you feel strong? Will you feel successful? Will you feel happy, right? Come up with maybe 10 words, 5 words, 3 words if you want, that really represent how you will feel once you've accomplished your weekly top 10. And then write those down and really notice as you feel those things throughout the week. Because honestly, as much as we feel like we get the thing and then we feel the way, we feel the way and then we get the thing. So step into this week. Remind yourself that time is one of your biggest, best assets as a business owner, not revenue. Money is important. Otherwise, you don't really have a business. But without your time and being really mindful, not of necessarily, when I say this, I don't mean working a lot. I mean being efficient with your time. So use your weekly momentum, your weekly top 10 as your guide as you start each day. And I encourage you, as always, front load the week. What does that mean? That means that you get as much of your weekly top 10 done in the first 3 days of the week as possible so that you really get a jump start on it. That way, the end of the week is just kind of icing on the cake. I know you've got this. I know that you're going to have an amazing week. I know because you listen to this that you're going to go ahead and you are going to have at least double the amount of productivity than you would have had if you hadn't attended Weekly Momentum. Thank you so much for showing up to play today. And once again, my name is Marianne, the Get It Done Diva. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, getitdonediva.com. Go grab those resources that I talked about. Get on that priority notification list for what's coming in just a few weeks, because you'll kick yourself if you don't manage to be one of the 44 that's going to get into this new program that I'm starting. And I will see you in Momentum. Much love.